Hello, hello, hello. Lucky you. You get more of me today. I haven't been to bed yet from my last stream. Um, we were in the Discord watching a bunch of shows, and I have a second wind. I don't think I'm going to be sleeping anytime soon, so I'm going to tire myself out doing another stream and then maybe get some sleep. And I know there's a bunch of other people streaming right now too, so let's see. Mainly Flow. It's the usual panel cast of characters, and machine. So Flow, we have Resto, Cynthia. Oh, Mr. Joshua Jones showed up. Based Oracle, Denizen and Dutchy, and Moose. And then on machine, we have him reading a book. I couldn't tell you he's on the panel. All right, well, that's that. We'll check the news. It's open panel. Did I pin the link? I thought I did. Let me take care of that. And then I'll do my usual thing. News, Twitter. Oh yeah, links in there. Trump and Kamala going back and forth. That guy, Iranian, the Hamas leader that got killed in Iran. That's really it. Nothing new. Let's see. Go look at Twitter. Nope. Oh well. I don't really have any topics or content. This is more of an open panel. Let me get the AI up, see what we could talk about. Oh, I was doing some of the woke stuff. I don't know where to start because wokeness is so complex. It's also, I think it plays on a certain psychology that's a little foreign to mine. More of a emotion centered, like compassion, empathy. Not that I don't have that, but I don't. It's not as vulnerable to being weaponized, I guess. Or maybe it is. It has before. I guess we all have our weaknesses, right? I don't know. Let's see. I was doing the marginalization thing. You know what? Let me ask it this. What are some other. It's going to get into unconscious bias, but do you think marginalization is intentional? What are some other factors that might contribute to it? Marginalization is often a complex interplay of intentional and unintentional factors. Oh, okay. While some instances are undeniably the result of deliberate discrimination and oppression, Let me figure out what oppression is. Many other cases are more subtle and systemic. It's all that invisible stuff. Do we not have real world stuff happening that we could focus on, like observable stuff? Intentional factors, discrimination. That's conscious prejudice. That's like the I told the car wash story where the guy didn't hire me specifically because I was gay, which was legal back then. Um, that was a conscious prejudice and bias against having a gay employee. So that was discrimination. That was intentional marginalization. All right. Oppression. Systemic actions to deny a group power or resources. What are systemic actions? I think of actions as acts, as individual, as humans doing things. Systemic actions are those that are embedded within the structures and processes of a society, institution, or organization. They are often policies, practices, or norms that affect large groups of people. I don't think of those as actions. How is a policy an action or a norm? Um, they say government policies, laws, regulations, educational systems, curriculum, standardized testing, the funding structures, economic systems, taxation, labor laws, access to financial resources. Are people entitled to access financial resources? I thought it went by credit and you had to apply, or grants or loans or whatever. But do people have the idea that anybody should just be able to go access financial resources? That seems odd to me too. Healthcare systems, insurance coverage, access to care. These are all actions, systemic actions. Man, these systems are very active and powerful. Like a lot of agency in them. Medical treatments, policing, incarceration rates. So the rates of incarceration are an action. Reintegrate. No, what? So this is animism. They are animating these systems with either or maybe a combination of invisible forces that have the power to act, or individuals that are taking all of these actions on mass scales, or some combination of. But this is all weird and superstitious to me. How is this getting by observation? These systems can either perpetuate or challenge existing inequalities. So I guess they mean those disparities. For instance, a systemic action like redlining. To me, the action is the person that's denying the application based on the policy. The policy is not the action. The person doing the redlining is the action. Denying services or opportunities to residents of certain areas based on race or ethnicity. So the denying happens either on the service end where they read the policy and they're like, okay, I have to deny you because the policy tells me to, or on the policy making end where the lawmakers get together and enact a policy that directs other humans to do the denying. But the policy itself doesn't seem like it acts. Um, See, I just get, hey, Angel, what's up? I just end up getting more confused every time I try to understand wokeness. And I mean, in Jesus and Christianity is weird too, but the more I try to understand wokeness, two things happen. The logic starts to break down and my brain starts to hurt. It starts to wear out very, very, very quickly. Like I already have to step away and take a break. Can see why you need like an advanced degree in it. To convince somebody like me, I need to see it. It needs to be observable. You have to point to it and say you can't just show me a chart of some data and point and say, see the racism when all I see is like a graph with some different outcome rates or something on it. And they want me to end that like in that like the Rorschach blob or the Jesus on the toast, see this narrative of racism as the only possible explanation for those disparities. But I need something more than just that. Is the fear that the Civil War or the Holocaust or whatever event haunts their nightmares at night? Um, we're just like can happen at any second. We're just like one act away or one wrong person in power away from people rolling back history to the Civil War times and enslaving black people. I'm not sure what the fear or the fantasy is, or that we're one step away from another Holocaust here in the United States. Freud called it reality testing, where you take your imaginings. He treated a lot of hysteria patients. You take your imaginings or your beliefs about things and you test them against reality to see if they're actually like if you think it's raining or thundering outside or there's a tornado or hurricane, you can look out your window and reality test and see if it's really happening or if it's just in your head or to what degree it's happening in reality versus in your imagination. I think that's a very important skill to have. All right. Um, I don't think I have anything else about wokeness to ask it. I'm done for today on my attempt. I didn't have really anything to talk about specifically. Um, just seeing if could get a panel going. It really sounds like flow. I don't know. I'm trying to follow the conversation. Oh, they're just telling stories right now. Um, I don't know. I'm still trying to build my community and find the people that are part of it. If any, I might be a community of one. I'm trying to find at least the 5 people. That thing from the other day where you're the 5 people you spend most of your time with. I'm trying to at least spend 5 people that I want to be or become that I think are gonna be healthy and advance my personal development goals. And it would be nice if those people in the community could be part of the same thing. But it's I have this talent. I'll tell this story. I might have told it before. When I was in college, I had this group of friends. We would hang out. We'd study at the library, and we'd also go out. We'd like go to the clubs together, and it was like my college social buddies. And there were these 2 guys. One was this gay guy that worked at the library with me, and one of our friends in the little college study social hangout group. We all started talking one day about wouldn't it be cool if we all got a place together, like an apartment or a house, and lived together for the rest of the college. We had like a couple of years left. And we got really excited. Like, I have this thing, probably because it, maybe the way I grew up, I don't know. But when people are talking about something, I think they're serious and they really want to do the thing. Because back home, that's usually how it is. If somebody talks about having a crawfish boil, we're usually in the process of going to the store to get the crawfish, and then all of a sudden it happens. Or if we talk about going camping, by that evening we're packing our camping gear and waking up the next morning going camping. So talking is a very quick initial first step into action, but the initial step into action is where the stuff actually happens. So that's how I take conversations. I think people are serious. I think they're excited about the thing they say they want to do, and I get excited. And so that's what happened with this renting this place thing. And so we actually, I this was before the internet. I called some real estate companies, I think, and you looked in the paper, the newspaper, and I found some listings, and we made a day to drive around and look at some of them, and we found this house that we really liked. It was cool and funky. It had like red carpet and metallic wallpaper, and I think a mirrored wall. It was perfect for us college kids. And we all, it seemed like we were all excited about it. I got so excited about this house and moving out of my mom's house and finally paying my own bills and everything. It was like part of that initiation into adult, what those developmental steps that for some reason are so hard for some of us to find these days. They all said they wanted to do it. So the next day, I went to the real estate company and I put down a deposit, and they put the lease together for us to sign, and we were all supposed to meet and sign the lease. And they never showed up. And I was confused. And I was a little pissed. And I didn't know what was going on. So I show up at school the next day and they're waiting for me. And they're like really sheepish and hanging their heads and hiding their faces. And I don't have, you don't have to be that great at reading body language to know something's up. They said that they were excited that I was excited, and they didn't know how to tell me that they didn't really want, it sounded like a good idea, but they weren't ready to make the commitment. They didn't want to put the money in. They didn't want to sign the lease. I didn't know why. I didn't understand any of it. I didn't understand why they didn't just say that. Like, why let me believe that we all wanted to do this thing? And so that's always stuck with me because that pattern has played itself out so many times over and over. I have this talent for, in my mind, I think I'm being very careful and trying to choose the right people. I'm trying to filter out the narcissists, the sociopaths, the people that would, the red arrows, the people that would not be good for a community. And I feel I think I'm homing in on the healthy people, the committed people. And every time I think I get to that point, we're ready to lock in. It's like it's a build, and it builds up and it circles, and you find the few people like the core, and you solidify, and you get to a point where you're ready to do the handshake. Let's build something. Let's do this. I have a talent of finding the people to do that with and getting to just the point that I described. We're about to like jump out of the plane and tandem skydive together. Within 24 hours of that point, the whole entire thing will implode and fall to shit in the most dramatic way possible. I've always had this talent for that. For thinking I've finally found my team and locking in and having it explode like somebody stuck dynamite in a commode and just shit sprayed the entire room with it. That's how wildly and spectacularly, it explodes. And then I'm like, damn, I came this close to locking in with this was the team. So in a way, I'm now I've learned to be glad when it implodes because it's like, oh, it saved me from like the job I got fired from, the last job. I honest to God thought that for the first time in my life, I had found my dream team. That the supervisor even called us her dream team. So I had external confirmation that it wasn't just in my head. It was a disability agency. We were all like misfit. We were all outliers. We were very open, um, kind of like we are on the Panelverse. And I got to wear my antlers. It just really felt like I could be myself, and that was a strength, an asset, and not a liability. And within in fact, the week before I got fired, me and my supervisor and the coworker that got me fired were having a meeting together, and we were like talking out some of our issues and opening up, kind of like we do here on the panel. And by the end of that meeting, we were hugging and we were almost in tears and talking about how glad we were that we all had each other as coworkers and everything. So I had no indication at that moment that a week later I would be called into a meeting and fired by the same people, by the exact same people. It's happened with in the Panelverse a few times. So I'm still trying to find those people, and I get very nervous every time I think I'm closing in because my signal is so broken that what looks like a green light to me turns out to be the biggest red light that I should have seen a mile away. I don't know what that means. I guess I'm just journaling right now and thinking out my thoughts. Hey Frank, so so okay, so early. Yeah, I am a trooper. Thanks for pushing me through. Ooh, Lord, hang on. What happened? Um, what was I talking about? I don't know. Just, I think rabbit holes I'm in or things I'm thinking about. Just stuff on my head, stuff on my mind. A lot of confusing things. People are confusing, especially for somebody like me that kind of experiences them from the outside looking in. And I notice things and patterns and little discrepancies and disjunctions that just don't make sense. I can't get them to make sense. And I guess I try not to be a conspiracist and create stories and narratives without knowing for sure. I'm very cautious. But I do notice. And when that happens, the confusion happens. And when the confusion happens, the trust goes away. And when the trust goes away, then it's that feeling of isolation and loneliness again. Not in like a depressed, negative way, but in the sense of I don't know if you remember our story maps with the four quadrants, and two of them were comedy and tragedy. And comedy is integration within a group, a community. And tragedy was the isolation of an individual from a group or a community, and usually a fall, isolation in a very negative way. But it's that isolation or that positive maladjustment that I've talked about before too. Um, that comes into sharper focus, I guess. And it sucks, but it is what it is. It's that 2%. 2% of the population is the amount of people I can be expected to like relate to and sync up with. So that's like my community building pool. And then out of that 2%, and that's because of the giftedness, the learning gap or whatever. And then within that 2%, because of the neurodivergence, I think it's 0.14% of the 2%, which is like 0.0028 something like that. It comes out to something like if you have 1,000 people, maybe two of them will be your people. So I'm not there yet because I don't know how many people are in the panelverse. Is it 1,000? Is it close to 1,000? I'm not sure the panelverse is my crowd to begin with. I'm looking for the green arrows. And I don't even have 500 viewers. So I don't even have enough viewers to even have the two people that might be my people. I mean, subscribers. Um, so it's a journey. It's the hero's journey. The hero's journey is a lonely journey. And I talk about lone wolves, but we still need our pack. Like, even as a lone wolf or a sigma or a spurg or a weirdo or an outlier or a misfit or whatever, those walking their own path, it's still healthy. I would be suspicious if somebody could walk that path and not ever need to intersect with other humans. And I'm an extrovert, so I definitely need that human in- interchange, intersubjectivity. That's how I learn. That's how I grow. That's how I discover who I think I am. Um, I don't know. My whole life, it's been the power of community that has been the final deciding factor in my growth. Whatever growth I have, you can guarantee that somehow community was involved in some way. And so it works. I just have experience that it works. And so I continue to seek it. I think it's healthy. I think it's important. And I'm not being absolute or dogmatic about it. You may have some rare individuals that don't need it or can do without. I'm just not one of them. I definitely need community, and I get a positive mental health benefit from having a healthy community. All right. I was hoping if I started the stream, I would tire myself out, but I'm still amped. I might be tiring everybody else out. This reminds me of when we'd like go to the bars and they would close and we'd still have all that energy and the sun was just coming up and sometimes we'd go to the like the waffle house or pancake grill or whatever and have coffee. We were like some of the few people in there. The servers were usually glad to see anybody at all. And then we'd go to somebody's house or we'd go find a park to hang out in and watch the sun come up or something. We were kids to young adults. We went to cemeteries a lot. We loved to hang out in the cemeteries. Another thing, we played scavenger hunts too. We loved to do scavenger hunts. We would get together at somebody's house and we'd divide into teams. Sometimes it was like two to a team, sometimes it was three or four, but depending on how many were involved. So you might have like three or four, sometimes five teams of two or three people. And then how would it work? I think each team would like think of 5 items to add. So we'd have this master list of however many items. And then each team would get a copy and they were off. And we all had a meeting place we agreed to meet at within a certain amount of time, like 2 hours. And then the items were spread all over town. They could be from anywhere. And so it was a citywide scavenger hunt. And you got in your car, you all got like each team got in the same car and you took off and you tried to find your items and meet back at the place in time. and people thought of some crazy items. Like I think one of them was like a bowling ball from the bowling alley. So you had to like sneak a bowling ball out of the bowling alley somehow. That kind of stuff. Um, and this was before cell phones, so we could snap pictures. I think it was a paper with the signatures of like 5 parents. So the parents of the kid, you had to go to the different parents' houses and say, "Hey, will you sign this paper? We're doing a scavenger hunt." Stuff like that. I remember one time we had to create a rap, like perform a rap song in costume, and that got you. And there were a certain amount of points for each thing. I remember one time it was like take flowers off of a cemetery. Like you were supposed to go to a cemetery and take the flowers off of somebody's grave. I absolutely could not do that. I refused. I just wouldn't get the points for that. But that's the kind of shit they would think of. It was fun. Not gonna lie. I love a good scavenger hunt. The next thing I want to tackle, and they do have them where I am. If anybody's in the area and wants to try one, let me know. Escape the room, and there's different themes. In fact, let me pull some up and see what the options are. Um, looks like they have a few. Ooh, Alice in Wonderland. Escape Wonderland. Your group is trapped in Wonderland. To escape Wonderland, you will solve mysteries in the Queen of Hearts castle, the Mad Hatter's tea party, and will even shrink before escaping the rabbit hole in under an hour. I want to do this one. Wow. Follow us on Facebook. Is that the only? Oh, I thought they had multiple rooms. Well, still. Does anyone want to escape Wonderland with me? I'm trying to escape it right now. um, ooh, aliens. Hang on. There's another one. An immersive experience. Now introducing the basement. Your ultimate. Oh, wait, no. Where is the escape room? Hmm. It's some gaming store that claims to have an escape room somewhere in it, but I can't find it on their website. Oh, our escape rooms are the perfect fit. Oh, it looks like they build them to order. Our escape rooms. Okay, here we go. Well, I don't see. Oh, well, forget that. I can't even find the escape room on the internet. How am I going to escape from it? I remember when we were younger and we went on vacation to we'd go to Texas, Six Flags, Florida, Panama City, and they had a lot of amusement parks with haunted houses. And some of them were really elaborate. They had this one, it was like 3 or 4 stories. It took you forever to walk through it, and you had to find your way out of it. And there was one part where you come to this like big room, and there's no door out or anything, and you have to like push the fireplace, just like in Scooby Doo, and the fireplace spins around and takes you to the next part of the room. Um, it was stuff like that. And there was this one room. It was like this big room, and they had about 10 or 15 doors leading off of it, like wooden doors with doorknobs. And only one door led to the right path. And the other ones would take you to other rooms or take you down hallways back to the central room with all the doors. And so when you got to that room, It took forever to figure out which door took you to the rest of the mansion. I love stuff like that. There was one haunted house in Vegas. Oh my God. Vegas had the best haunted houses. They did it. It was the kind they would set up in like parking lots of the grocery stores, the strip malls, the shopping centers at night. There'd be like a metal trailer in a parking lot, and you start at one end of the trailer and walk through and come out the other end. They got so creative with those things. And I remember one time me and my boyfriend at the time went to one, and it was an alien. It was an outer space haunted house. And we're like, oh, this is gonna be so cool, so much fun. And we walk up this you had to walk up this ramp to the little ticket door to the entrance. And there was no line or anything. We were the only ones there. And so we were all excited. We walk up the ramp, and the ticket guy's there, and there's this young girl. She's like maybe 9 or 10 years old, standing with him. And he tells us, he says, that she wants to go in too, but because of her age, they can't let her go in by herself. Would we mind if she walked in with us? So we're like, no, that's no problem, no big deal. And they tell her, okay, we'll go with these gentlemen and stay close to them and go in as a group. Don't touch. And they said specifically, they said, don't touch the monsters, and they won't touch you. I'm like, okay, we're good. So we walk in the haunted house, and the first few rooms are really cool. It's like glow in the dark stars on the ceiling and neon and comets and stuff. And I'm like, wow. And it's playing cool, spooky alien music. And we get to this other room, and it's more of that stuff. And we're walking around with the girl, and she's like oohing and on. And then we get to the next room. Oh my God. I'm getting a rush just thinking about it. I'm not kidding. The wall breaks open like Kool-Aid, like this like 8 foot tall alien with giant rubber hands and like the big bug eyes comes through the wall, just comes out of the wall straight at us. I'm like, okay, oh my God, scary monster. Well, don't touch me. They said you're not going to touch me. And the alien grabs the girl and pulls her into the wall and takes her. And I'm like, holy fuck. Me and my boyfriend are freaking out. I'm like, they just took that. Wait, they said the monsters are not going to touch us. They just took that girl. What the fuck? And we start running. And we run out of the trailer, and there's like this little courtyard with these bales of hay. And there's these werewolf and this person with a chainsaw. And it gets really like scary, haunted housey. And the whole time I'm going through this thing, I can't even focus on the monsters because I'm thinking, they took that girl. Like, how? They said the monsters wouldn't touch you, and they grabbed that girl. Something's fucked up. It took me forever to realize that the girl was a plant. She was part of the show. She was specifically put there to fool people like us and scare the shit out of us, and it worked. That was one of the scariest haunted houses I've ever been to because I did not know what was going on with this monster grabbing this girl and pulling her into the wall because I thought she was a normal girl that we were supposed to be watching. I appreciate good stuff, good pranks like that. All right. So in normal time, it's like 5 in the morning on my end. So this is a totally different crowd than I'm used to. So part of this is an experiment to see what kind of freaks this time slot draws. Maybe let's check in on some streams. I hesitate to stream flow because it's really a wild card. Nothing against flow, but you just never know what the panelists are doing. Oh, it looks like machine ended. Okay, well, flow is the only game in town right now. It also has people on it that I don't think add anything to a community and can actually be destructive. So I don't want to feature them when they're all on one panel. It sounds like they're doing panel gossip anyway. Hey, Jack, Eurofrogs. Um, I don't know what that is. Is that the Pepe's? The um, I'm. Are you trying to confuse me more? Is this? Are you trolling? Hey, it's 5 in the morning. I've been up all night. I'm very vulnerable right now. If you're trolling, it's not going to take much. Oh, if you mean the panel, I was talking about flow state. In fact, you should go up and troll them. They are not ready for you. I think you would be just the addition. Um, I'll put the link. Oh, Europeans only. Oh, I was European. European. I don't. Maybe I said something else. I don't remember talking about. I don't know who's European and who's not. There is a girl from Dutchland, Holland, Netherland, Dutchy on there. And there's Joshua Jones, who is American but lives in Vietnam. I wouldn't call him European, though. You would like him, actually. He is the atheist, conservative Christian. I mean, Christian nationalist, but he's atheist, who wants a Christian utopia and a volcano. But he realized that you're going to have to sacrifice 2/3 of humanity to have that utopia. So he has a volcano ready to throw 2/3 of humanity in to establish this Christian nationalist utopia. And because he's atheist, he's fully aware that he's going to be one of the 2/3 that goes into the volcano. So, oh, mostly okay. Duh. All right, thank you. We do have a few Europeans. We have some British people with British accents, and we have some Australians, and I know for a fact we have at least one Norwegian who might be out there. Dobaz, if you're out there, hello. It's probably, well, I don't want to assume it's daylight in Norway, but it's probably daytime in Norway. In fact, let me take a look. What is Norway time? Well, you're up early too. Are you on your way to work? Yep, it's like 2 in the afternoon in Norway. He's probably not at his computer. Yeah, I just had insomnia, so I thought I'd take advantage of it, put it to good use. I did a stream earlier tonight. Had an interesting conversation with Mr. Axis Rat Blood, which actually had me. I'm still thinking about it, like how consciousness is one layer of experience, and there's potentially infinite layers. You could scale up or down to any level potentially, and at the consciousness level, I guess unless you're talking about sensory data, the only knowledge you can gather is exploring the other layer. Like your consciousness is sandwiched between layers at the top and layers at the bottom, or internal and external, maybe. And you can only know them through imagining what the experience might be at those layers. But the only layer we can be conscious of is the layer that our consciousness exists in, the plane of consciousness, and that includes somehow the sensory or physical world. But outside of that, it's just infinite imaginative abstraction, speculation, hypotheticals are blocking anything. Oh, it might just be over your head, Frank. I notice that happens a lot of times. It's that what they call Dunning-Kruger or positive maladjustment, that IQ gap, standard deviations, something like that. So it might not even be. I almost did. I put my Bubba Gump hat on. Um, cute. I put my Bubba Gump hat on earlier, but I didn't like the look. I was in the mood to wear something MAGA. I need to pick one up. Filtered through consciousness, right? That's kind of what we were talking. That's one of the things we were talking about. And we're not really in control, I don't think, much of how our brain chooses to filter the data. But here's what he came down to, and this is kind of where we diverged a little bit. We didn't diverge in the model. I think just the emphasis. So you have consciousness ultimately breaks down or reduces to this passive awareness or observation of these other layers outside that is not consciousness, like Ghost in the Machine, kind of. But I said that I don't think that our consciousness is only a passive experience. I think that I would. No, thank you. Um, and ourself, even our attempts to know ourself, is this passive consciousness embedded in these layers of self that we come to know and discover through passive experience and observation. And I said I think there's also a part that wills or desires or intends, not just passively experiences, but actively attempts to influence or direct or participate in the experience as well. And for me, the emphasis is more on that part of consciousness or that part of the human or whatever we are. And his was more on the passive experience of like being trapped in this consciousness, not consciousness, or self, not self universe. That's probably an authentic path, and as a Satanist, I should explore it more. But I've always said I'm discovering that I make a bad Satanist in many areas. I don't have the energy to hate. It's like the energy that it takes to create fusion or fission or the nuclear bomb or something. It's more energy. It's draining. And I have hated before. There are individuals, very particular individuals that do very specific actions. Believe it or not, people think I'm temperamental, but it really is hard to get me to the point where I actually hate somebody. Um, and I'm not a violent person either. So if I'm hating you and want to do violence on you, that is an extreme, extreme state for me. And it takes something very extreme to get me there. But it is exhausting. And I prefer not to be there. And I wish people didn't have the ability to get me there because it's draining. But I also think hate can be important and valuable. I think it's a psychological mechanism that kind of keeps boundaries for us and tells us who we are and who we aren't. And then there's also the theory that what we hate most is the parts of ourselves that we see in others. So it's like self-hatred. I don't hate Cynthia. I think she's hateful, but I don't hate her. You can No, it's not, I don't know you enough at all to hate you. I think our hate relationship has barely just begun. And there's also the theory, which I it tracks with my experience, that hate and love are more similar. They're more like one continuum of emotion than any kind of contrary or opposite. I think that's me that needs to have the nap. I'm trying. That's what you're for. Y'all, it's helping. This is helping. I'm feeling more and more like a nap. I'm getting my low bar signal too. I'll just make it get through this one pot of coffee. See, I figured that. I don't know if you know this, Frank, but Jack is a working fellow. He actually has job stuff that he does, and so he doesn't have time to just hang out on. He's not a shut in with. I don't think he lives in a basement. I don't think he lives with a mom. So already, like 3 of the 4 boxes, he doesn't even meet. I think he's in a boudoir, and I think there might be a surrogate mom involved, but still. Oh, I thought you. Oh, so you're like on a break between jobs? That's what I need to start telling people. I'm between jobs for 4 whole years now. I'm between my last job and whatever job I may or may not end up doing in the future. That's kind of a between. What is it? Like a heading into the future, unimagined, unburdened by what has been. Did I get it right? I guess I need to learn this quote. Have a feeling I'm going to be hearing it for a while. I can imagine what can be, unburdened by what has been. Should I be seduced by the carrot of profundity that appears to be dangling in that phrase? Unburdened by what has been, the past, the physical, the material, the natural, opposed to the visionary, the digital, the disembodied, the cyber, the world of the avatar, the identity, the identities. Thank you, Frank. We'll be having coffee together, I guess. I'll see you later for more Survivor. Or Burdened by yes, yes, the utopians. That's another criticism I have of the left. I am not a utopian. I think there's value in dreaming and imagining and transcending those limits in the mind and the imagination and creatively. But when you start trying to engineer society along with that, that's where I have to draw the line. Oh, thank you, Frank. Thank you. You're not entirely rotten. Yeah. Um, yeah, probably. Do you think it's more vague than what what can be unburdened by the past? No, what I mean more specifically, a lot of, and it's not only leftist. I'll say that there's utopians on the right as well. There's people that want a Christian utopian or a conservative utopia. I I think of it as romanticism versus experience. But when I talk about when I encounter it is when people start talking about society and politics and policy, and I realize after a while that they're not referencing it against any system that has actually ever existed in history or currently exists. They're referencing it against a system if humans were different than they actually are. And that's what I call utopians, that their baseline is an ideal that I don't think humans have evolved to or attained yet. But the world that they're building and imagining that they want to live in is based on an ideal and not an actuality. I hope this is no, it's not. All right, let me get him out of here. Maybe I've heard that meme. I'm still not quite sure what it is. I did see something. Was it Mentis Wave? Just did a video trying to explain it. Hey, Dom. So, so that's what I mean by utopians. What I do, the way I do my society, is I build it around what actually is. So I scaffold it around the needs of the actual humans that it's being built for. I don't try to take like an even Socrates in the Republic at the end, they have the conversation about like, do you think it's possible to live in that world, or is that a world that you think will ever be? And Socrates says something like, no, it's not a world that will ever be possible in real life, but we should live as though that world were possible. All right, I'm being pestered by a troll in the back. So I think ideals have their place. I wouldn't want to do without them, but I also think they should be realistic, I guess. And that's where I part ways with the progressives. And I say progressives because that's where I encounter it a lot, but I call it out when I encounter the religious people too. Like I think, especially in a country like America with separation of church and state, I think religious utopias are just as unrealistic. Now, I think on a small scale, people could put together whatever little communal living they want. I'm just talking about on a societal scale. Maybe city, county, state, those levels. I don't want to be engineered into somebody else's utopia. I want to collaborate on the kind of society that I want to live in. All right. Well, oh wow. I hit an hour already. It feels like I just started. Um I don't know. Anybody have anything else? Otherwise, I might think about wrapping up soon. I'll be on later today anyway. The model that I have so far is there's the physical, there's the body, and it's taking in data, information, sensory data, and we have reactions to it, and then we have a consciousness somewhere layer on top of that that's at the end point of a lot of that. And so it's working with a selection of that and doing its thing and trying to process and make sense and relate all those components together. Um, I don't know if there's anything higher than that yet. Experientially, that's as high as it gets for me. The ability to do that. And the little window of free will and like area you have to kind of move around a little bit and play around and direct and the creative process. So I guess it's naturalism with with the non-physical like consciousness, information, etc., being emergent phenomena from the physical or material substrate. Yeah, I consider myself I call myself a naturalist, but it's strictly more of a phenomenologist. And then I try to use logic and reason as a tool to help keep a coherent, stable picture of reality that I can successfully make predictions from. One would have to entertain the ideal they are not the vessel. See, this is Jesus talk. This is how Jesus talks. It's a riddle and an enigma. Let me try to figure it out. One would have to entertain the ideal they are not the vessel, and thoughts to be the observer. The vessel being the body. We're not the body, and I think we are. I think we're nothing but the body. I think if we're not the body, what else could we possibly be? So we're not the body, and we're not our thoughts. Those just come and go, unbidden. We're this little point, like Descartes' cogito. We're this little point of consciousness. That's the ghost and all of that. I'm a monist, though. I think it's all one. When you unplug the body, all the rest goes with it. It's all one phenomenon, one organism, one whole. Who is the one thinking and feeling? You're all of it. You are the thoughts. You are the body that it's you are the vessel. You are the thoughts. You are the observer of the thoughts. It is all one unit. Like a cell has all the little parts, but it's one thing. Um, okay, that's interesting information. If you're ever on and I hear weird noises, I'll hopefully remember what this is. I definitely I believe in possibilities. I'm I'm a little bigger on probabilities just because my brain needs something realistic to latch onto. Oh, a monist. Okay, I am a moner. Wasn't that a Disney movie, Moana? And didn't it get in trouble for woke, like not being woke, kosher, or whoever certifies wokeness? Well, let me check the news. Maybe something new actually happened. Nope. That the headline all day has been this Trump interview. It is Kamala Black or Indian. I'm trying to stay away from all that noise. There's going to be so much of it by the time November gets here. The inquiry have to be done. See, I don't know what subconscious is other than an inference. And I don't know how you direct the subconscious. Does it have an intelligence of its own? The only intelligence I have actual experience with is my waking consciousness. Sometimes there's different states I could reach through active meditation and BDSM and stuff like that. But for the most part, it's my waking rational consciousness, the logos that I have to rely on. Okay, let me see. Oh, so it wasn't woke enough. It didn't have enough woke. Okay. Yeah, I don't do silence and stillness well at all. At all at all. Those means are not going to work for me. I can't ever turn. I'm always aware. So even when I'm peaceful and silent, I'm aware that I'm peaceful and silent, and that disrupts the peacefulness and silence. Like if I want peace and silence, I'll just go take a nap. I just sleep. That's peace and silence to me. But to be awake and conscious and peaceful and silent at the same time is mental torture. I would never make a good Buddhist. I had a friend that he went on one of those Buddhist meditations where it's like a weekend and you do nothing but walk around in silence and you pay attention to like every little cell and molecule of your body from top to bottom. And they play little bells throughout the day to let you know the time, and that's it. And he said it was one of the most grueling, intense activities he's ever done his entire life. He does it periodically now. They would just have to kill me, please. I couldn't do a half a day of that, much less 3 days. And Dom, honestly, I think it's different types of brain. Like it's what Jack is saying. I think the brains that are able to do it probably get a great benefit out of it. I'm just not that brain. I require a totally different. I get that from things like reading, listening to music, some like watching a movie where I could get lost in the aesthetic experience and it kind of shifts my consciousness to another state. Being outdoors, porn, BDSM, that kind of stuff. So I'm able to shift my brain into different states through active me, like engaging actively with certain activities. Oh, you mean with autistic people? Plus, also, I'm dissociated. I have not felt my body in over probably 15 years. It's depersonalization, derealization, and I think being on the internet doesn't help. So I have a very disembodied sense of myself. It's like a conscious. Actually, I've kind of always been like that because I remember I was trying to get with this guy once, and we were laying in the bed talking. And I never know when people are flirting. I'm so bad at that. If you want something to happen, just come out and tell, just ask or tell me. Um, and he was like bringing up conversation and trying to ask me little things about myself and direct it onto like my body and what feels good. And I kind of thought I might see where he was going, but I wasn't sure. And I remember saying like, I don't know. I'm not really always aware of my body. I feel like this disembodied consciousness a lot of times that kind of just exists in its own space. And I could just hear him going limp as I was talking. I could hear the mood dying and being killed. And after I said that, I think that was the end of the night. We went to bed and woke up the next day and that was the end. I think it's like you have a tendency to do that anyway, and so under trauma that becomes a default reaction and it intensifies, thus the dissociation. I remember the exact moment that it happened. It was a physical event, some sexual trauma, and it was like a switch. Like one moment I was normal, and the next moment I couldn't feel my body anymore. And I've been that way ever since. It's a very bizarre sensation, but I've learned to live with it. It's like my new normal. And the theory, hey Proby, the theory is that it's your I guess talking about the subconscious, it's your mind or your brain or your deep brain or whatever intelligence is in charge of that, however that works, it protecting you, like protecting you from an experience or a memory or something. Most words like insight and intuitive is the midbrain. Okay, let's see. Upper brain versus yeah, like the what is it? prefrontal, ventromedial, ventromedial prefrontal cortex, and then you have the limbic. Is it the medulla, the amygdala? Most of us serve the self ongoing programming. I do get the idea from listening to a lot of people talk that they experience themselves very passively. They're a passive consciousness in a body, or they're passively embedded in this media ecosystem that they absorb. And I've always had more of an active mind that's always engaging and responding and reciprocating with my environment. So it's hard for me to relate to this feeling of just being the passive recipient of experience. Some folks learn to be able to communicate with the vessel direct, like with the body. The vessel is observed. Why you keep saying vessel? Um, I think perception is reality, pragmatically. And I think perception involves the whole of the body, the whole of the being, the organism. And that the part of perception that reaches consciousness is just that. It's the subset that we are conscious of at any given moment. But I think there's a ratio of perception, of consciousness to actual perception. Well, hopefully my vessel gets a break at some point, get some of that peace and stillness. Because with insomnia, with me, like if I go too long, I get that second wind and then I get a lot of energy and it kicks in and it takes me like to the next day or half a day later to finally unwind. But it doesn't happen very often. So every now and then when it happens, I like to take advantage of it. It's like a little, I don't know, creative burst. Vessel form, meat suit. Oh God. My ex used to call it that. And he used to call it, this is how online he was. He used to call it meat space. Like the world outside the computer was meat space. Are just different ways to explain when we say words like my, not I. My vessel versus I am the vessel. But I am the vessel. Like this is me. I am this. Like if I'm not this, what am I? What is this if it's not me? Imply that we are not it. My vessel and my thoughts imply that we're something other than. Or they could just be a part of. Like it could still be, I could still be a whole and be talking about my vessel as part of me, as my thoughts as another part of me. But then I'm also a big egoist or egotist. Ego, both probably. Um, the walrus. Um, it's hard for me to get past the ego or the sense of ego. Ego death is hard, and intellectual humility is hard. You're using the waking program. Yes, I thought that was the goal. I thought that was the ideal, was the humans to maximize their waking consciousness and their senses. And the other programs are running, right? Isn't that the idea? But the only one we're conscious of is this waking program. But our bodies doing things, our emotions, maybe whatever else. Like asking Siri, "Are you the computer?" Yeah, I've used that analogy before, like a TV or a computer, and consciousness just being an epiphenomenon of the hardware. Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God, we watch it all the time. I watch it in the Discord probably at least twice a year, and it's one of my favorite movies. And Slacker and Mind Walk and Dinner with Andre, and the other series he did, the Before Sunrise, with Julie Dupuis and Ethan Hawke. They're one of the couples from Waking Life. Or both. I do both. I definitely experience the emotions, but I'm able to be aware of them and process them at the same time. So when I'm having an emotion, no matter how intense it is, my rationality is fully intact while it's happening. Oh, you haven't watched it? I think there's four of them now. They might have made a fifth. Midnight in Paris is another good one, the Woody Allen movie. But we could watch it in the Discord one day if you want. I haven't seen them in years. They start kind of slow and they get better. Some are better than others, but it's one of those it's a talk movie. I love those talk movies. Yeah, this I agree with. Um, I'm very wary of dogma. I'm very aware of anything closing off. I like openness. Although sometimes you have to set boundaries and define things to keep it from being too open. It just depends on your goal. Oh God. Have you met Denizen? He says the same thing. Well, it's EDI now. I don't know if see you're behind the times too. You're gonna get dinged by the next Karen that you meet because it is now EDI. Eddie. Edie. It's not DEI anymore. It's equity. And Kamala even did that little cartoon where they're climbing the mountain and she talks about equality of outcome and equity and equality of outcomes. That's the point of contention is engineering outcomes versus just providing the best starting opportunities for everybody and then letting their own individual merit and character carry them through to the outcome. And they can have access to the support they need, but they still have to create the outcome. It's not going to be engineered for them. Open versus being receptive. That's interesting. I read once it was a commentary on a poem, and it hinged on the difference between behold and regard, like beholding something and regarding something. And that's what this reminds me of, being open versus being receptive. I do both. I'm very judgy. I judge all the time. I judge without even thinking. So when I hear ideas, I'm constantly judging them. But at the same time, I'm stepping back from them and weighing them as objectively and unbiased as possible. So I'm doing both. There's like a judgment layer, but there's also this secondary process that's sifting through the ideas at the same time in a less judgmental way. I have multi-track programming. Who's Steven? Yeah. I think I have a reputation for being really hard on conspiracy theorists, and oh, Dest. Oh, no wonder I don't know him. I'm not a Destiny person. I forgot what I was saying. Open-minded, your brain falls out. I don't know. People's brains are going to do what they're going to do. I don't know how much any of us are fully in control of our brain. I think we come at the we're downstream from a process. And so we have whatever capacity we have at that end of the pipeline to work whatever comes out of the pipe at that part of the process. I think that's where most of our power and agency lies. I don't know what the controlled indoctrination part means. Do you mean I'm indoctrinated or the people believing in the conspiracies? I did a stream on this before, and we went through the Wikipedia article, and it explained why it's called conspiracy theory. And it's to distinguish it from actual conspiracies, which are real things. They do happen. But conspiracy theory is a specific genre with specific features. And we broke them down using the Wikipedia article. Um, the etymology of theory and reason is indoctrination. Mm, I'm lost. Conspiracy facts and agenda. Well, there's just facts. There's historical facts, events, actions. Um, and yeah, sure, I guess there's agenda. People put out agendas all the time. Think tanks put out agendas. Nonprofits, politicians, advocacy organizations. The the big stumbling block for me with conspiracies is that coordination part. Getting the more people you involve and the longer span of time, it requires their coordination. Like I watch these reality shows all the time where they have to form alliance and they can barely keep three or four people together for two votes. So keeping even a small number of people together, coordinated across years or decades, brings the credibility level lower and lower. The more people and the longer span of time involved for me. The Yeah, you were talking about that earlier today, that language itself is a form of control and indoctrination. But in order for that to be true, language would have to be this centralized, it would have to have a centralized source that somebody designed and controlled. And that's just not how language works. There's not really a center to language that somebody could manipulate and indoctrinate from. Um, well, there's some weird things happening with language right now because I'm not following some of this, and it could be me. Or maybe this is you're demonstrating your point through language. When people start bringing in energy, they lose me because I don't know. I know what energy is in science and physics, but I don't know if they mean it figuratively, if they mean actual energy and what kind. So you mean like the voice, like sound waves, the voice, and it travels through the air and it hits the ear. Energy and motion. It's okay. Well, this is fun regardless. So I understand emotions. I think of emotions more or less as chemical energy. So if people want to talk about emotions as being energy, I can work with that. Even thought is that's what electrical. energy, the neurons firing, and I think there's a chemical component to that with the neurotransmitters. So there's certainly energy involved. If you worked it out on a physics level and did the math and equations for all that, I'm sure energy would be in there as a variable. I suspect when people talk about energy, it's something more abstract and figurative and like vibe epistemology. Oh, yeah, this I kind of understand. Even with it's kind of like listening to different band, like each band has their own particular sound that you just know that that band could pull off that vibe, that sound. And like with different authors or even different genres or forms, there's certain types of poet, like a Shakespeare play is going to have a different energy to me when I read it than like a William Blake poem or a Kafka story or maybe a Walt Whitman. His blank verse is going to have a different energy than something rhyme, like a Milton sonnet. So like that kind of stuff I understand if that's what you're talking about. Aesthetic energy, if you want to call it that. Welcome back, Frank. How is your video game slash nap going? You can see how mine's going. Yeah, if that's what you mean, I kind of understand that. That all adds to the experience in little subtle ways. That's funny, Frank, because he was talking about Brill earlier. Oh God, don't even get me started on body language. It's not that I don't see it. I mean, I notice what people's bodies are doing. At least the obvious stuff, like little tiny subtle stuff, I may not. But I just don't know what any of it means. And it seems like different cultures have different codes for what different body languages mean. All senses are different types of languages. Then you start to kind of stretch the concept of language and start to use it more figuratively. We read energy like body languages, like Jesus energy. When I call in Jesus and the energy changes. Oh, okay, you haven't started yet. Well, Frank's about to stream if you're into watching lesbians shoot things, kill people. Ghost Recon, is that what it is? It just makes me want to go run around in the woods and sneak around into different buildings. I don't necessarily want to shoot people, but I want to do all the other stuff. All right, well, Frank, I might let you go do that and wish you well. Um, I'll try to go put myself to what is it? Animation, suspended animation, torpor, recharge, recharge my unit. Yeah, you too, Dom. I do appreciate the stimulation. It at least makes me think. Keeps those neurons fire, keeps that energy flowing. Yeah, I'm gonna try. I think it's working. You've all been great. You've all been wonderful at putting me to sleep. Thank you again. And hopefully I could do the same for you. All right, I think I'm gonna go to 1:30. Got 20 more seconds. And then we'll call it a day. I'm sure. That's exactly what I'm sure I will be dreaming of. They're right there under the surface, just waiting to burst forth and bubble up. Different type of sleep. All right. Well, let me go get a look at those boobs. Everybody have fun, and I'll see you when I see you. All right. Good day. Have a great day, everybody. See you later. Bye. Boo!